What is going on, everybody? Everyday Sens fans, Ottawa Senators fans. We are here live at 6 p.m. We got a pregame edition, fourth game of the season for the Ottawa Senators. I am Jack Richardson, joined as always by Brennan Parks. Brennan, we got a big one today. Josh Norris is back. How are you feeling today on this Wednesday, October 18th, to preview the game against the Washington Capitals?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. And the big news was Josh Norris. Obviously, that came out this morning. I was at work and I checked my phone just a little bit late, a few hours late. I always hate that. It pops up and I missed it live because it's massive news. This is his first game in 270 days. That's that's insane. That's almost a year. And yeah, January 21st against Winnipeg was when that shoulder went out again. Norris had surgery, obviously, and it seems like he's back on track. The big thing, too, is that he's not going to be limited per DJ Smith on faceoffs. He's going to be on the first power play unit. Like, he's a full go. There's no hesitation. I think that's kind of why they wanted to wait, was maybe, and I don't know how much a week made a difference, I guess, but like, it kind of feels like maybe at the start of the year, they would have had him limited. Like, they would have been kind of nervous for him to take faceoffs and be the one-time shooter on the power play. It seems like he's a full go now. And again, maybe it was a confidence thing for him. He's back in the swing of it. The boys are obviously fired up. Drake Batherson is the one we need to talk about because he's like going nuts. This guy, it's Drake and Josh since the beginning. These guys were stars in Belleville together. They really it seems like they have a great friendship off the ice, but like on the ice, both of their best years came when playing together. They kind of just play perfectly off of each other. And Batherson came out and said too, like he's beyond fired up to have Norris back, and I'm sure he is. Obviously Batherson, he's off to a bit of a slow start. No points through 3 games, and he's been playing with Chartier a lot. You go from Chartier, Chartier's had a great start to the year. I love his defensive game, but this guy does not score points at all ever. So I think going from Rourke Chartier to Josh Norris is just a minor swing in the favor of Drake Batherson. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, Norris is kind of the highlight tonight. And this is a very winnable game for the Sens against a Washington team who is not what they used to be at all.
Yeah, I was joking before we even got on here, and I almost don't even want to talk about the Washington Capitals because there's, again, a lot of stuff. We haven't really spoken since the last 3 games, really, right? I mean, we previewed the weekend, but we haven't spoken since that. A dominant weekend from the Ottawa Senators. And again, doing it all without Josh Norris, without Shane Pinto as well. We'll maybe get into that a little bit, but the vibes are high right now, and I feel almost like we're beating a dead horse with the Pinto stuff, which we are, but everyone's playing so well. This is exciting. You get to insert Josh Norris on the 1-4 line that wasn't working in terms of offense, right? I think Batherson, Kubalik, and Chartier pointless through 3. And, you mentioned Rourke Chartier, but like he earned a spot. He's going to play tonight on the 4th line, centering that line, and Kaslick's going to move over. McEwen's sitting. So like there's a lot going on. But first, let's touch on Josh Norris, man. I mean, it's been a long time coming. It's his first game, as it's written here on the YouTube, first game since January 21st. Also, though, he's played 2 games. What did he come back for in January? 2 games, maybe.
I think it was
basically, like 2 or 3 games in the last year because he got injured around this time last season. So it's a big moment for him. I think I'm more confident that they took this time. I think they were being extra careful, as painful as it was. And it's really exciting now. You mentioned the power play. We can get into that, and we'll touch on the power play as a whole in general, because they switch a lot of things around, including Norris coming back, kind of a new look Unit 1. But first, let's just talk about 5-on-5. You mentioned Drake Batherson, who kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit yesterday. He was asked, what it's like seeing him back on the line, because they did line rushes yesterday and they wouldn't commit to Norris playing. And Batherson said, yeah, it's been great to skate with him again. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Well, we start buzzing. We read into that a little bit. Is Josh Norris back? Is he back? I don't want to say whispers as in I knew something, but basically what people were alluding to and saying, like Friedman was saying it too, like, if not this weekend, next game for sure, kind of like is the tone they were giving. So having Josh Norris back is huge. Now, I'm not assuming that there are any new Sens fans in the last year or whatever listening, but if there are, and let's assume for the purpose of this exercise there are, what are the Sens getting in Josh Norris? Like, who is this guy, and what can we expect from him? From what you remember, what he gave you, are we getting the number 1 center, or are we getting a guy who's going to slide right under Tim Stützle? Because I might have some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, so I know you posted that tweet today, and the common response, and I completely agree with this from people, was We expect him to, not expect, but we hope he stays healthy. Like, I think our expectation for game one anyway with him is to just get through game one, because there would be nothing worse than, and this season started very well for the Sens. I mean, the first loss is kind of in the rear view now. They overcame that. They had 2 really good games on the weekend. They've got 3 more home games in a row against very, we'll say, weak opponents. They've got Washington, Buffalo, and Detroit. So like everything is set up perfectly for them, right? Like they're in a very good spot. So there would be nothing worse than Josh Norris coming back, all this hype, and then on home ice in his first game, getting hurt and blowing out that shoulder. There would be literally nothing that could put a bigger damper on the season than that. So I think our expectation and hope should be that he makes it through one game at home, this first one. But I'm going to tell you, like, even on the faceoffs, I'm going to be so goddamn nervous all night. And I think it's going to be like that until we see him play like 60, 70, 80 games in a row. Like, it's just one of those nervous things. But yeah, back to your question. If you don't know who Josh Norris is, if you were, forgetting his 35 goal season, like, it's just that he's a sniper, right? He's a raw sniper. He will score from anywhere. He's got the ridiculous one-timer that he can, obviously he's got his wheelhouse on the power play, where he's at the top of the circle. He gets the one-timer, like we've been seeing here from Chychrun in the exact same spot where Chychrun's blasting them home. That's where Norris likes to sit as well. That's his office. And that's really like, he's known for his goals. Like, he had 35 goals in 66 games, but he's a good two-way center. And that's overlooked, I think, about Norris as well, is that he plays well defensively. He's quick. He's shifty. Like, he's a fast skater. I remember I was so excited last year when he came back, and maybe it was at the start of the season even. He really stood out to me because he didn't produce a lot of points in those first, like, 7 or 8 games. But, like, he's a fun player to watch. He's quick. Like, if you watch Rourke Chartier, like, I don't want to hate on Chartier. I really don't, because he's having a good year. But, like, if you watch him play, he gets the puck and you don't really expect anything to happen. He kind of just like, he's a gritty player, right? He's a fourth line type of guy, a fringe player, which is fine. They need that too. But then you look at Norris and like, he gets the puck and there's just this burst. Like, you have this confidence, and he's shifty. He's such a smooth, quick skater. And then he's obviously got the hands and the shot. The shot is what I really love because he can score from anywhere. Like, he'll walk in and take a wrist shot from the top of the circle, 1-on-2 against the defenseman, and you're holding your breath in excitement and anticipation. You're like, this could go in the net, right? So he's someone who's going to provide a lot of offense. Now, the Sens have scored 13 goals in 3 games without him and without Shane Pinto, which is baffling, and they're doing a great job offensively. But again, like I said, I think what's overlooked is that Norris is a good two-way guy. And he's someone who, like, we love his goals, but he does more than score goals. And he's going to be a reliable force for them. Again, back to Chartier, Greg too. Ridley Gregg is he's arguably my best player for the Sens so far. Most surprising, we'll say. He's been just excellent. But again, how long is that sustainable? Like, is Ridley Gregg being so young, and then Rourke Chartier in the third line position? Like, how long are those two sustainable without Norris and Pinto? It's worked so far, but like, I think the top teams, like you saw in Carolina, they're going to start exploiting that a little bit and targeting that. Getting Norris back allows you to have like a reliable, it's going to be sustainable as long as he stays healthy. So I absolutely love it. I can't wait for him to come back. I want to hear your thoughts too. What are you expecting from him? And is it just that we want him to stay healthy for more than like 30 seconds at a time?
I mean, yeah, but I said it before the preseason, right? I was like, when they were being a little bit coy, and obviously they didn't know what the situation was, and maybe we'll get more about that when Nora speaks to the media. I'm assuming he will after tonight's game if all goes according to plan. I think I said, like, I don't understand the sheltering people in preseason, because if you can't take a bump in the preseason, you can't in the regular season. Dorian, like he said, that if the season started tomorrow, he would play. Like, I mean, that didn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to be like everyone else. Every hit he takes, every face off for a little bit here, I'm going to be not sure what's, I'm going to be uncertain every time, even if he's like, I think he knows too. He knows his body language is going to be important. If he's a little bit laboring on any play, we're all going to be looking. All of us will be. But what's exciting, and Eric, we see that. Thank you so much, man, for the super chat there. Appreciate that. We like the grind and the great work, so we appreciate it. It's fun to do. And if you guys are watching and doing this, it makes it so much easier. So appreciate that, Eric. Like we I don't know. We've been saying how deep this top 9 could be, top 6 could be, even going back to last year. And we've never seen it to full fruition, right? We haven't seen Stützle, Norris, Pinto. And there's another question in here from Pamo, like, is Greg's upside Pinto? That's another discussion, I think. And we can maybe save that for an actual episode based on the way that Ridley Gregg is playing, because quite frankly, like you said, he's been fantastic. And I'm loving that I was hyping up the Ridley Gregg train going in. Not that it was some dark secret that Ridley Gregg was going to be a good player, but I think the fact that him, Joseph, and Tarasenko kind of two wingers with question marks, and then Greg being the question mark. If, hey, can he hold up this end of the bargain at second line center while we wait for other guys to come in? He's more than held up that. So what's exciting to me about Norris coming in is he's joining a line in Kubalik and Batherson that has, I don't want to, I mean, technically in terms of the team, they've struggled. And like Batherson was a bit of a, he's a -3 still, which is just not off to a great start for Batherson. No points, obviously, for him yet. Kubalik, your big trade piece back from DeBrincat, hasn't really done much. But at the same time, what's exciting about that is you're throwing Norris into that mix. So you can immediately just rejuvenate that line. You mentioned Batherson with Norris, their chemistry. Both of them came up together in Belleville, had great years there. Rookie seasons, the second year was fantastic with both of them. That's all really exciting. But what's exciting to me is that you've already got a line in Greg, Tarasenko, and Joseph that's killing it right now. They've been the best line on the team, I think, but I don't think that's crazy to say. So it just like, it'll show us. And I know we want Pinto here, and a move will have to happen. But right now, what we're going to see tonight, Brennan, I've said it on Twitter today, is going to be the best lineup we've seen in an Ottawa Senators uniform or Ottawa Senators team since I can remember. And I don't think that's crazy. I'm going back even to the 2017 playoffs. The talent that this team is icing tonight, they're all healthy. Everyone's clicking. All the goalies are healthy. Like they are prime healthy right now. So it's gonna be exciting to watch. Like this is gonna be the Sens at full strength, and that's what's exciting to me. We haven't been able to say that. I think for the last year, we've all been like, you know what? They'd look great if Norris was there. How great would these lines look if Norris was there instead of Chartier? And given how good they played this weekend, it's just adding to the excitement. I don't think you can get any more fired up about it, to be honest. Like it's perfect. And it's kind of like he's joining in on the wave. Whereas last year, and I wanted to point this out when we talk about the weekend and everything, the 5-2 wins, the dominant third periods, whatever it is, they did it last year too. They won 4 in a row at home after starting 0-2. And then they were 4-2. And in that fourth game against the Coyotes, Norris goes down and then it all goes downhill. And I don't want to correlate it exactly to him leaving, but this is the best goal scorer on the Ottawa Senators. It's Josh Norris. 35 goals in 66 games a couple seasons ago. He had 17. I think he was tied for the team lead or tied for second the year before as a rookie. First line center. And I wanted to bring that up just with the top line. And I don't want to say they were struggling, but Stützle was a little bit slow out of the gate, even though he got 4 points in 3 games. Like he was a little bit slow in terms of dominating, let's say. We haven't seen those two go head to head to be the number one guy yet. We haven't really. And because as soon as Norris got hurt, Stützle had the best season ever and just had
Norris
90 points.
was also supposed to be the first line center entering last year.
That's what
like
I'm
everybody
saying,
had him pegged there, right? So
yeah, like he was the number one guy. It was exciting when he was coming on the scene. It was like they've got a first center since Spezza. Like it was a big deal, right? A first true number one center. So if he's back, if he can play the rest of the season, I don't know. We'll take it one step at a time here. But I posed the question on Twitter: what are you expecting from him tonight? And to personally, I just want to see a good power play. Let's segue that into the power play discussion, because if there was a weak spot, and there was, it wasn't perfect hockey, but it was as good as it gets. The power play really struggled, especially against Tampa. Like the second unit took over in the home opener against Philly. I was at both games, and we can get into that in a little bit because it was a fun time. But let's talk about the power play. They rejuvenated a little bit. Why don't you break down what they changed for practice that we'll look for tonight?
yeah, so you tweeted this out, and I want to, again, I'm going to talk about DJ Smith a little bit. So DJ in the past, I think one of his biggest issues has been adjustments. I think he gets stuck in his ways. Like he has a certain thinking process. And again, like I'm not in DJ's mind. I don't know how he thinks, but based on his decision-making process, like he really tries to just, it's almost like the definition of insanity. He tries to do the same thing over and over without making adjustments when things aren't working. This year, he started this summer by saying, I am open to learning. I want to be told when I'm doing something wrong. That was partially why they brought in like the analytics department and the different people around Steve Stais. I mean, he's not really in that sense, but just these different people in the front office and around the team who are going to kind of help make decisions. DJ, like that was my favorite quote from him of all time since he became Ottawa's head coach, was that he wants to be told when he's doing something wrong and he's open to learning. And we're seeing this now because Thomas Chabot, and I don't want to hate on Chabot, but he's had a rough go here the first 3 games. No points, obviously. We talked about 13 goals in 3 games for Ottawa. Chikrin's got 2 goals and 4 points. Sanderson's a point-per-game player. Chabot's got none, but he leads them in ice time, and he's on a pairing with Chikrin, which is kind of wild that he hasn't even gotten a secondary assist. But regardless of points, Chabot does not look good on the power play. And Ottawa's first unit, I didn't like it from the get-go because they didn't really have a shooter without Norris. But like Chabot, man, you watch Sanderson and even Chikrin, but Sanderson especially, he'll walk the line on the power play really nicely. Like he's quick. And the thing is on the power play when you're walking the line, you need to be sort of quick. You need to have a bit of pace. You need to be shifty, right? Chabot, we talked about his skating before. He's a great skater, smooth skater, but he's not shifty. He does not have quick feet. He takes the first kind of long few strides to get going. That doesn't really work a whole lot on the power play. So the first unit, which has been so dangerous in the past, has really struggled to get going here. The second unit's been awesome. Now with Norris coming back, the adjustments they've made, and this is where I commend DJ because he actually bumped Sanderson up over Chabot on the first power play unit. And this might be the first time that Chabot's been demoted off the first unit like in 4 or 5 years. Like I can't remember him ever being taken off that spot because there was never anybody to challenge him. This is what I love about having the defensemen, though, the 3-star defensemen, is that they're going to challenge each other. They're going to push each other to be better. Like if Chabot's struggling on the power play, it's not just a given spot anymore. It's like somebody's going to come take it. And Jake Sanderson, who, by the way, at his draft night, he was referred to as someone who had limited offensive potential. That's what they said. He's now on the first power play unit for a dangerous Ottawa Senators team. Chabot's going down to the second. Norris is going to be on the first unit as well. And then Giroux's down to the second too. So it's going to be a balance, obviously. Like we can say first and second. Really, it's probably more so like
I was going to say
1A, 1B. Like it's similar,
but
I still think though, like if you've got Brady Tkachuk on the one unit, like this is your first technically quote unquote that you'd want out there. Regardless though, like I think it's going to be, good to see DJ making those changes because like I said, it's just what he struggled with in the past and something that's kind of led to Ottawa being in these holes. And obviously they went on those bad losing streaks last year. And I think it was in part because things weren't working and they weren't changing anything. It was like, let's just hope that at some point we can magically get out of this and things start going our way and we get bounces. Here's the thing. Do not ever rely on luck. Ever. And that's what I felt like they were doing in that November stretch last year. It's like at some point our luck has to change, right? Like at some point we must get the luck. Don't do that. Don't ever think that way. Like just think about it as we have to create our own luck. Like that's all it is, right? It's not about relying on like God to save you. It's about relying on luck to be created by yourself. So I think that him changing things up and Sanderson now having a chance on the first unit, it's going to be good. And then obviously too, I like his decision to keep the Greg line together, Greg, Tarasenko, Joseph. Obviously, like you've got Norris, Kubalik, Batherson's probably more so your second line, but it's kind of just a middle six. But I think in a lot of situations, coaches probably would have just put Norris right up where Greg was just to bump him up with Tarasenko has been so hot. That just doesn't really make sense because that line's been awesome. So I really like DJ's decision making. I wanted to point that out because I've been so critical of him in the past. So far this year, really happy with his coaching. I am interested to see how this Chikrin Chabot pairing continues to play, though, because they have not been what I thought they'd be. I don't know. Like I talked about it in my film study a little bit. They're just not really reading each other well. And I think maybe the whole offhand thing is playing a bigger factor than we initially expected. Chabot's obviously on the right side. He's had a lot of defensive breakdowns and miscues. But again, that's happened in the past. So I'm interested to see if he keeps this together. I don't think you can split up Sanderson Zub. I want to hear your thoughts because I think it was you that tweeted about that as well, how you wouldn't touch Sanderson Zub because they're your shutdown pairing. A lot of fans have said they would like to put, Sanderson with Chikrin and then put Chabot and Zub back together. I don't know if I'd be opposed to that if things keep going like they are, because at some point you have to, if it's not working again, you have to change it. But Chikrin and Chabot, I think like we need to see more of them. I want to see a 10-game sample size and then kind of reevaluate, just because if you split them up now, like you're not seeing their full potential. You're seeing two guys who, neither of them have played the right side a whole lot. Chabot hasn't played the right side since junior, which is like, how can you expect him to come in and be dominant on a position he hasn't played in years, right? So I want to hear your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah, that's probably a tough one, right? Like the power play wasn't great. That one line you could maybe nitpick, but again, it's nitpicking because it was two fantastic hockey games. And again, James, thank you. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you. And I just want to welcome everyone in here. We got 67 people. Looks like just under 70. Let's get it up there to 70 maybe. People watching right now, we welcome everyone into the pregame show. Again, we're going to keep doing these as much as we can this season. I think they're a lot of fun. Good way to break it down without losing the hype for a day and then we go back into the game. Like I think this is a good way to ramp up for the game. I got a stat here just before we touch on Sanderson Zoo, because I do want to talk about Jake Sanderson because I can talk about him all the time. And Derek Lee knows. I was sitting with Derek Lee at both games this weekend. I couldn't stop talking about Sanderson. Like he's a dream to watch. So here's a little Brady Tkachuk stat, another guy who had a pretty good weekend. All right, so this is from Stat Center, obviously from TSN. Already having collected 4 goals through 3 games played so far this season, Senators captain Brady Tkachuk needs to score 1 tonight against the Capitals to tie a pair of quick starts to a season from none other than Daniel Alfredson for the best goal start in franchise history. Alfie did it in 05-06 and then again in 07-08. He had 5 goals through 4 games. Brady can make history tonight. He really can.
And he will.
And he probably will. I talked a lot about Brady as well, especially after that Tampa game. I think this guy, I think he was my hot take before the season started. It wasn't like I've had a lot of hot takes, all right, but it was my prediction. Like it was just kind of like a one prediction. Here's what I think might happen. I had Brady Tkachuk leading the team in goals and in points, and by doing so, will insert himself into the Hart Trophy conversation. I think the start just kind of solidifies that he's on a mission. Now, he starts hot. He started hot last season, kind of trailed off a little bit. Obviously, still had a great year, but I legitimately think that Brady Tkachuk is on a mission this season. And I think that is going to be telling. If he can pot one tonight, it'd be great. But it's more just the mentality. And we've talked a lot. We talked about it last episode where Tkachuk just kind of drags people into the fight. But now as a captain and like, you can see it bleeding through the whole team. And I think I said before the weekend games, I want to see that team show us that they mean business. And they did. They played fantastic. So back to the Sanderson and Zub, Chychrun, whatever it is. The thing that I'm hesitant to do, obviously, is to break up Sanderson and Zub, which you mentioned. I don't have the actual numbers. I'm sure there were a couple chances here and there, but Kucherov, Point, and Hagel were all Tampa had last on Sunday because Stamkos was out. They didn't see a shift without Zub and Sanderson on the ice. The only shifts that I saw with my own eyes that I can remember that they saw was when the goalie was pulled for 4 minutes and they had to take Sanderson and Zub off. Legitimately, and it's a credit to DJ Smith and his staff again, because I think that on home ice, the record it speaks for itself. Under DJ, the home record isn't that bad, even throughout the bad years. Like they were decent at home because they're good at line matching. I think they are. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because I don't want to touch Sanderson Zub, because anytime there's a top line coming into town, boom, you throw those two out there together. I think when they're healthy, you have to keep them together. And I want to mention one more thing though. The Sens have one more road game, I believe one in November, 2 more. So 2 in October. Sweden trip is a road game technically, but they have home ice in both of those games, meaning they have last change, meaning they can match against anyone they want. Larkin, Raymond, DeBrincat come over the boards, so are Sanderson and Zub. Like every single time that's going to happen, I guarantee it. So the reason I don't want to break that up now is because you have so many home games to take care of, and you have to take care of them given how many road games you're going to have later on in the year. I bring that up again, though, just because at home you can hide a defensive deficiency with Chabot and Chychrun, aka work on it with them. You can give them time. Like you said, give them 10 games. This is the perfect time to do it. We saw in Carolina, they pivoted a little bit, put Brandstrom with Chychrun, Chabot and Hamonic, but they didn't touch Sanderson and Zub, and I like that. I think you have to keep a shutdown pairing. It just like feels right, especially on home ice. Like you're confident, and it's Sanderson and Zub. Like we love both those players. They're great defensively. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't know about you, but I would be in favor. I want to see more of Chabot and Chychrun because I think we got the good on Saturday against Philly. They were fantastic, both of them. And then against Tampa, they struggle a little bit. They kind of, I don't want to make them responsible, but they were the reason that became a bit of a game, if that makes sense.
It does, and I'll talk about them more, but like I just pulled this up. This is my favorite stat. I love doing this. So you talked about how Sanderson Zub faced Kucherov, Point, and Hagel a lot in that game against Tampa. Well, I actually pulled up the numbers. My favorite stat right here. So Sanderson Zub played approximately 11 minutes at 5v5 against that line, which is that's a lot of minutes. Like that's around their entire ice time, like you said. And get this, so that's a very good line. Obviously, Kucherov is a 100-point plus player. Point is obviously, I'd say, a top 8 center in the NHL, and Hagel is Hagel, but he's good. So the Sanderson Zub pairing against them around 11 minutes, Ottawa outshot that line 13-3 with Sanderson and Zub on the ice. Like that's insane. They created 5 high danger chances to 2 against, and they scored a goal and gave up none. So like that was domination. They dominated a very good line, probably one of the better lines in the league with Kucherov and Point on there, and Hagel as kind of a complimentary third. That's ridiculous. Like I don't think you can break them up like you said. And yeah, it's because I want to see more of Chabot Chychrun too, but I think Ottawa has been lacking a shutdown pairing for as long as I can remember. Like they haven't had a genuine in the rebuild for sure. They haven't not had a genuine shutdown pairing.
It was Phaneuf and Ceci in those
and that
couple
is
years.
not that is like a fake shutdown pairing. That's like
it's a
no,
Guy
that's
Boucher special.
Yeah, you can't just put two guys who struggle together and call them a defensive pairing. That's like no. This is like a real shutdown pairing. Ottawa's in a great spot with Sanderson Zub, and when something's working like that, you don't break it. It's kind of the opposite of what I said. How when something's not working, like split it up and try something new. This is the opposite. It's like when something is working, like don't split it up. That's simple, right? Like why would you split these guys up? I don't think Shabbat and Chikrin are that big of a concern either, where you need to split them up. Like if it's been 10, 15 games with Shabbat and Chikrin and they're really struggling, like they're getting outscored, like it's bad because they shouldn't be. They're two-star defensemen. They should be well off on their own, like holding their own against top players. If they're really struggling and it's just not working, then you can split it up. But even then, like I don't want to split Sanderson and Zub up. Like I think you can find something else, do something else, try something else, because this is a great pairing to have. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with the defense. Like, I don't have much more on them. I want to see more from Shabbat. I don't want to hate on him too much. It's only been 3 games, but we've seen a lot of the same issues over the past few years. And that's the big thing with kind of a lot of the points I make on Twitter and in my articles and the film study, everything. It's not just about individual games and plays that we're seeing. It's about like trends that we've seen over the past few years. And last year, Shabbat showed a lot of these same issues. So I'm hoping he can get back on track. The plus side is that Jacob Chikrin looks absolutely ridiculous. Like he looks so good. And Jake Sanderson, obviously. I think Sanderson's been, in my opinion, their best defenseman so far. He's got 3 points in 3 games, but defensively is the big thing, right? With Sanderson, it's always been defensively for him. And the puck retrievals, the exits, the entries, we are really seeing a different shade of Sanderson so far this year. Like it's kind of what we expected, right? He's skating with the puck. And last year, I think, and watch for this tonight too, he would skate up the ice last year and he'd enter the zone to be this great rush. He'd go into the corner and he'd just kind of like fire a shot towards the net from the corner. And it's like that shot's never going to go in. It's not a bad play. You still get possession in the O zone and a shot, maybe a face-off, whatever. But this year, he's coming into the O zone. He'll go into that same corner and he'll cut back and then he'll set up in the offensive zone. Now Ottawa's got possession. It's exactly what I love, exactly what I want them to coach this team to do, because it's just carrying the puck into the zone with possession. Like Sanderson does not cross the red line and fire the puck into the corner. He just skates. Well, he gets speed. He builds speed. He skates in and he skates around the defenseman, cuts back. Now Ottawa's got the puck. They're passing it around and they can set up for a good shot. That's what you have to do. And I think we're starting to see that more. So the Caps tonight, it'll be interesting because they're kind of like they're a lesser team than Tampa, I would say, but they're still a competitive team. They're not totally like a Philly level team. So it's another test, sort of like Tampa was. Where they're in the middle. They're kind of a middle of the pack type of team. So Ottawa, obviously, they're going to have Ovechkin. I know DJ said that he wants Sanderson and Zub to focus on shutting down Ovechkin. I like that DJ is embracing this whole shutdown pairing too. That's nice to see. And then Mark Mathot came in and said Ovechkin's not that hard to shut down at 5v5 with a little spicy take on Twitter. It's the power play. So special teams, I think, will be key tonight for sure. And like you said earlier, I think the power play, I want to see Norris get going on that first unit, because the first unit is just, they haven't been what we want them to be, and now they have a shooter. I think Tim with the cross team to Norris, that's what I want to see, and I want to see that classic one-time run up in the back of the net.
Yeah, I'm giddy just thinking about that power play. And also because, again, like, I'm not trying to take away from Thomas Chabot, but I legitimately don't. I almost don't have time anymore for anyone who's saying that Jake Sanderson isn't the best player, best defenseman on this team. He could be the best player on this team midway through this season. Like, him and Kachuk are fighting for that title right now, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a good one from Alex Lefebvre there. Zub anytime goal scorer tonight plus 1,400. For those who don't gamble, plus 1,400 is very long odds, but it's Zub, so you never know. I almost thought he was going to do it for the home opener, but those could be a little nugget there for some plus 1,400. But do you remember what I said on our first episode ever? I said Jake Sanderson is going to be the Conn Smythe winner on this hockey team if they go the distance, and if they end up winning a cup with this core, it's going to be Jake Sanderson. And look at him now; he's the shutdown pairing. He's 21 years old. He's leading the PK, and now he's quarterback in the top power play unit. So if he's up to the challenge with this top power play unit, I legit think that Jake Sanderson is just going to take the reins on this team and be him, like he did with US. I've talked about that with the 2020 World Junior team when they shut down a high offense Canada. Jake Sanderson leads them in ice time out of nowhere, puts his name on the map. Like, I'm so bullish on Jake Sanderson. I know all Sens fans are, and no one's taking away from him when they're talking about Chabot. But it's just like I know that this power play is going to succeed with him there, and not that it wouldn't with Chabot, because look, Chabot could have joined when Norris came back and they could have gone guns a-blazing again, but I like this change. And again, like we said, that unit 2 isn't really a second unit. Like, they're pretty good. They've been the better one with Chikrin and Sanderson and Tarasenko. Giroux's down there now. Like, it's kind of a new look unit as well. So that's exciting. Brendan, let's get into a little bit of an ad read first, and then we will continue on with a little bit of a preview for the rest of the game. So we would like to announce, so there's not even an announcement anymore. You know by now, support for the Everyday Sens podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SENS20 at manscaped.com. Brennan, why don't you talk a little bit about it? It's been, I'd say, a good amount of time for both of us where we got in the groove of using these products on a pretty regular basis. For me, anyway, I feel like it just feels like I'm well kept, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I just want to remind everybody too that it's like tons of different products. I mean, I've gone through their website. They sent us a package. Obviously, we tested it out, but I've gone through their website and ordered some stuff, and they've got a ton of different stuff. Like, it's from the nose trimmers to, like, they've got the bags, the bathroom bags, the kits, like, and it's good. And obviously with the 20% off, like, you're actually getting a good deal, free shipping. And yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. It's high quality stuff, right? Like, they've even got boxers. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you buy all the time and that you actually do need, and you can get it from here with the discount. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So support us with that, and obviously, like, support yourself too, right? Because that's really what you're doing by purchasing that, but it goes a long way for us too. So yeah, I'm happy with that though, and I've really enjoyed their products for sure.
They are kind of a game changer. And like I said, it just makes you feel like you're well kept. It's almost like a routine. Like, you have this whole little kit. And I know there's maybe a stigma. I don't know if there still is anymore. I kind of mentioned that a couple of times about men's hygiene. And it's, all those products, those are for girls and stuff like that. Not the case at all. And Manscaped kind of sends that home, hammers that home with you. So again, get 20% off and free shipping. Can't emphasize that enough. Free shipping with the code SENS20. You can see it right there at the bottom of your screen. At manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code SENS20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right. I like how I transitioned from Jake Sanderson hype into a Manscaped ad. And I think that's perfect and pretty telling of the way how hype we are about this season. It's just that kind of vibe. We don't have to go in from ripping the team and ripping Pierre Dorion. We can talk about how exciting this team is. Now, what else do you want to hit on here? We can talk about the roster. You want to talk about, like, the way this lineup is set up a little bit?
I have
like,
one question for you first before we dive.
Sure.
We can dive into that. So
Sure.
this is just kind of spinning. Like, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about it. I just want to know your thoughts after 3 games and what we've seen about this whole Shane Pinto debate with the Matthew Joseph thing, because I know now, like, I put a poll up the other day. Who would you trade? Because before the season, everybody said trade Matthew Joseph. Like, that's who you got to go with. And it's obvious. Now, I think it was like 80% people voted for Dominic Kubalik to be the odd man out. It's only been 3 games, by the way, but Joseph has just been so good. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, look, there's a lot of recency bias there. Kubalik had a great preseason. I think the thing is, like, I'm going to sound like I'm lying, but I think you would know I didn't want to get rid of Matthew Joseph like a lot of people did. A lot of people written him off, and that's fair because he had a bad production year last year. The Sens couldn't score a 5-on-5. He had no 5-on-5 goals. Quick association. He has a $3 million contract. That's an easy one to get rid of. I've never wanted to get rid of the player. I think he's valuable. I think the PK stuff is valuable. You've mentioned that a lot as well. And now that the goals are coming, he's got 2 goals in 3 games here at 5-on-5. He's buzzing around the ice. I believe he has 3 points. He had 2 points in that opener in Carolina. I don't think you can justify trading Joseph now. You can't. And I understand Robert, like, not needing to add a sweetener, which is why it hasn't happened yet and why it didn't happen earlier. But the thing is, especially with how well that lines, and I know you don't want to not make a move because of a line's chemistry. The thing is, like, I don't think you can justify moving Joseph now. And in a way, I think Kubalik makes the most sense just because a lot of people have mentioned it too. He's on a 1-year deal. You don't have to suffer the loss long-term, right? Where you've got Joseph at that number for 2-3 more seasons, 2 more after this. And if you look at a scenario here where you can move Kubalik and let's say you get Pinto to a reasonable number for the next 2 or 3 seasons, which fits under the cap for this season, every single player other than Tarasenko is signed for next season then, right? Like, you can run this entire thing back. You got Giroux and Chickard on the last year of their deals. You've got plenty of cap space going into next season as well. it's just this one last move. It really feels like, doesn't it? Like it's that one last thing they got to figure out. I think what's helping things with Kubalik is that Tarasenko came and he's been outstanding with that line, right? If it was the other way around, it would have been like, oh my God, what do we do? Terrible signing. But it doesn't really feel like people are harping on Dorion for bringing Kubalik in. And I don't think they should, because that was a good piece to bring back. And I still believe in him. Another issue, though, is it enough money? And the reason I'm saying that is because as the days tick on here, we're 9 days past the start of the regular season. It was 5 p.m. last Monday. From then on, every day that goes by, Pinto is cap hit, not the money he gets this season, but his cap hit. So literally a lose-lose for everyone. Cap hit is up. Actual money doesn't go up with the cap hit for Pinto. But with that, each passing day, it gets prorated to how many days he missed. So and the best way to explain that, I think, for if people are kind of confused by that, it's if you go, Patrick Kane's a good example, actually. How about that? If Patrick Kane signs in January, let's say, because he's injured or whatever, and he signs a 1-year, $5 million deal, or a 1-year, whatever it is, it won't, from what I understand, it won't count as just 5 million against the cap. It'll be prorated to whatever cap space is left for that. I don't know if this makes any sense. I'm kind of putting myself in a pretzel here, but the point is, tomorrow, if you sign Shane Pinto, it'll be for a 2-year, 2.5 per season. This season, the cap hit will be higher than 2.5. And with each passing day, that'll only climb. And I think that's how it works. And yeah, and I know people are saying, yeah, the Sens get more cap space as the season goes on. Well, they do, because everyone else's, I guess, goes down. But if you're not, it's prorated to if the season was starting today. So it's just a lose-lose the longer this goes on. The reason I'm pointing that out is because Pinto wants 2.5. Kubalik makes 2.5. It might not work. That's the only thing. And when people mention Brandstrom, that gives no room, because you bring Clevin up, you only have 1.1 in space, then we're right back where we started. So that's the issue I have with everything. I do not know who to trade. I think they're just going to have to bite the bullet and do it, or hope for an injury. And it sounds terrible, but that could be their saving grace here, a long-term injury, God forbid to anyone. But that's honestly the only way I see them getting out of this. How about you? Because I just personally, you can't trade Matthew Joseph right now. He's literally too valuable. I think he's been too good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was I don't know what the answer is. It's a hard situation because I actually don't know. I think Matthew Joseph is the answer from a contract perspective, but at the same time, I think he's been worth more than 2.95 million based on his performance so far. Again, I don't think it's fair to expect him to sustain this, and that's what people would argue is, well, a hot start for Joseph. What are the odds that he actually overcomes what we've seen in his entire career to date and keeps this play up? If he cools off at all, right, then you're going to lose that value again. Maybe you trade him while his value is up. It's tough. I agree with you. I don't know how you trade him right now, because Ottawa's not in a position now like they've been in the past few years where it's not, the expectation isn't just winning. No, the expectation is completely to win games. And if you're trading Matthew Joseph, even if you're adding Pinto, it's counterintuitive. I think that Joseph, the way he's playing right now, is equal to Pinto's performance on the ice, and maybe even more valuable. And again, I don't think he'll sustain that, but right now, how do you justify, as Pierre Dorion, trading someone who's your best penalty killer? He's a point per game so far. He's been it's more than points. He's been electric. He's been physical. He's been winning the battles. He's been he's actually been their hardest worker. I think he's been skating so hard. He just looks like a man who's trying to win a job, and that's exactly what I'm seeing. It's almost like a tryout between him and Kubalik, and so far he's winning it. So again, the Kubalik thing, maybe I feel like they could still get something done if they move Kubalik. They could still find a way to get Pinto in there, but regardless, it sucks to have to move anybody, but they've put themselves in this situation. We talked about that, how it sucks. It's hard. There's no right answer, but the right answer was to not end up in this situation and to plan ahead. So they're paying for it now, right? And that's the unfortunate thing. But I just want to talk. Anthony has a good comment here. Nothing will happen until we see what we have or don't have with Norris. I think it's a good point, because that's what I was thinking when they might have put Norris on LTIR. I was thinking maybe they were waiting to make a trade as insurance, because if Norris goes in LTIR and misses significant time, Then you traded Joseph to make room for Pinto. Well, now you don't have Norris or Joseph, and Pinto's back, but you're missing two key players. Like, they could still be doing that. If Norris gets hurt again, like, what do you do if you just traded Matthew Joseph too? Your roster looks significantly worse than the one we've been praising for the last like week now, right? So I do like that, but again, it's a tough spot because the money keeps getting tougher with every passing day. But they put themselves here, and now they've kind of got to deal with it because they didn't plan ahead. So I do like it though, and I think that it's worth waiting to see what you've got in Norris. You need to make sure he's healthy because frankly, if you trade Joseph and then Norris misses the whole season, like, I don't know, I'd be a lot more weary of the roster than I am right now. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully Norris stays healthy and they manage to, I don't know. I don't want to see Joseph go. And the other thing about Joseph is he's so like key in the locker room. Like, the guys all love him. He's become a real key piece in that room. And no, we're not just focusing on character, but like, it's unfortunate to have to pick a piece who's so tight with so many players on the team and kind of like pluck him from the roster after you just started the season off on a good note. Like, imagine if they win tonight and they're 3-1 and all the vibes are so high, and then they pluck Joseph off the roster and they just kind of pull him out mid-season. It's unfortunate. It's bad timing. So we'll see what happens.
And this is the danger with the whole thing dragging on. Like, if they were 1-3 after tonight and it was a completely different scenario, even if they're 2-2, maybe like if people don't play well tomorrow, if Joseph has a bad game, Kubalik still doesn't have a point, Batherson doesn't get going. Like, there's so many things that they've left themselves open to criticism for that it's almost hard to pick a lane. I would say, and like, as a, both of us talk about this team a lot, and like we've got a platform to talk about it. It's hard, and it's not our job to figure it out. It's our job to talk about what they do. And I don't envy the spot that they've put themselves in, but the key there is that they put themselves in that spot. And guess who's watching what's going to happen here? Steve Stais. Guess who's watching? Michael Andlauer. Like, this is a bit of a tryout for Pierre Dorion. And the thing is, again, like, seeing what you got in Norris is important. Yeah. But I think we maybe talked about that. Like, what do you expect from him tonight? And in general, like, if he goes, it's hard to put numbers on it, but if he can just be himself, even without the production, like, just be a stud centerman and be a difference maker, drive the play with that line, legitimately a thing as small as, getting Drake Batherson going at 5-on-5. That was a huge gaping hole they had last season. If even the power play, if you can get the power play going, Norris is worth it. So you wash that off. Yeah, man. I mean, and it's just, again, like I've talked about this already. It just sucks for Shane Pinto. It absolutely stinks for Shane Pinto that he's not here. He should absolutely be a part of this. And it's all on the team. Like, two things can be true. The Sens have all the leverage in this negotiation, and it's complete BS for Shane Pinto. Like, both things can be true, which is not normally the case. I said it before. I'm not usually this pro player in a negotiation, but I think the team winning right now is helping. And if they go 3-1 here, and if they beat Buffalo on the weekend, like, it'll just be, excuse me, that much more of a slope, I think, for the fans to get something, like for Dorion to get something done, which sucks again, but that's the nature of the league right now, right? It's not favorable to players making money, I would say, just with the cap, but that'll change next season. Hopefully get Pinto signed to something, but like, that's kind of where I'm at with all that. Do you want to talk about the line combinations? They just kind of came out for warm up. Obviously, it's 15 minutes to puck drop. Got to Kachuk, Stutzel, Giroux, Joseph, Greg, and Tarasenko, and then Kubalik, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson on a de facto third line. Then Parker Kelly centered by Rourke Chartier with Kastelic on the wing. Deep pairing's the same. Anton Forsberg is getting the start tonight. This is what we got here. It's a good lineup. Like we mentioned, this is the best that we've seen in quite some time in one game. So, Brennan, we want to take it from here. I mean, it's obvious. We're all going to be watching Josh Norris, but what do you want to see out of certain players? Maybe you want to see someone bounce back, maybe keep it going. Who do you want to see?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say from a team perspective, I want to see less defensive breakdowns, and I mean self-inflicted breakdowns. Like you said earlier, Tim's been good, but he's kind of hasn't like looked like complete self from last season. He's had just a handful of turnovers and stuff. I want to see them just limit the mistakes, focus on managing the puck, and obviously like create your chances. And I think they've been doing a good job of, even with the chip and chase, and nobody really loves that, but they've been doing a good job of winning the battles this year in comparison to past years where they're actually getting the puck back. And yeah, so I just want to see them limit the mistakes and manage the puck better. The player I'm going to watch, though, let's both give a player we're going to watch aside from Josh Norris, because he's the obvious one. I'm gonna say, and this is kind of obvious too, but Drake Batherson, and that's just because Batherson, to me, he hasn't been bad either, but he's been kind of more invisible than I want him to be at 5v5. I think before the Aaron Dell situation in that season, he was a point per game player, sure, and points speak, but like he was a dominant play driver at 5v5, if I remember. Like he was the one who would get the puck on his stick, he'd enter the zone with possession. He was like kind of becoming a power forward where he was using his size and speed and strength, and he looked awesome. And then he got hurt. He hurt the ankle last year. He didn't have that same skating strength. And then this year in the preseason, he looked back to normal. But then in the first 3 games, he's kind of been under the radar, and he's a -3, like you pointed out. So I want to see more from him. And I think if there was any way to get him going at 5v5, this would be the way. Is Josh Norris coming back? Like I said earlier, Josh and Drake and Josh, that's the combo, and it has been since their days in Belleville. So he's going to be my standout tonight, the guy to watch. And I'm just going to keep watching Shabbat every game too, because I want to see him limit those mistakes specifically. And I want to see him work better with Chikrin. I need to see Shabbat working on the right side too, because he just hasn't looked comfortable on that side yet. So we'll see if maybe tonight's the night he gets a couple of points and gets the confidence back, because the confidence is still a big thing with him and it seems to be lacking. So hit me with your standout tonight. By the way, we should point out the goalie situation. Anton Forsberg starting is kind of notable because they've had 3 days off since their last game. So usually if Korpisalo was brought in to be the lone starter, like he'd be the one starting. They're clearly going with the whole tandem thing, and that's awesome because Forsberg actually had a great game in his first start, and he deserves to kind of keep rolling because he's been a fantastic goalie for them, and they needed a tandem, so they brought Korpisalo in. But don't be fooled, like this is a tandem. This is a 1A, 1B situation, and I think they're showing that early in the season.
Yeah, I love it. I'm not gonna be mad about Anton Forsberg getting a start. I think rotating is the way to go, especially when you have so little back-to-back situations, right? Just establish a rotation in general, right? Just give guys a night, give them. And a key to that also is when you have the net, don't give it up. Like don't get pulled, because then that happened last November, right? I think Forsberg and Talbot got pulled 2 times each in November last year. But I'm going with Robert here. He kind of said what I was thinking. I'm looking at Tim Stützle. I want him, and I don't know if I want to say less emotional in general. We can talk about that. I know you were showing some good clips, and like we were seeing it in the rink on the weekend. The refs are using Tim Stützle to make a statement, and that's pretty obvious. I don't think that's even biased to say. I'm not suggesting that the penalties Tim has taken are not penalties. It's the sequence of events. It's the event of a questionable non-call. I'll be generous and say it, not going Stützle's way. A bit of a gesture from him, and I think that's toned down actually from where he was when he was a rookie and through that or whatever. But a clear, like, what are you doing? Like giving him attitude, and then immediately following, it happened twice this weekend, a chintzy call against Stützle. Like,
it was insane. Oh
it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous, and we can go on and on. And I know that, like you ask any team, they think their superstar doesn't get enough superstar love, and like that's not what this is. It's blatant targeting, and we'll go on about it if it happens, it keeps happening. But Stützle had a maintenance day yesterday. He didn't practice, and I'm wondering how he's going to be acting. Like I want to watch him tonight. I'm waiting for him to just have like a game. Like I think in Carolina he had a great start, or it generally had a decent game, like some chances. He had that goal obviously to tie it, and then he had the giveaway, and then he had another giveaway. Like it was just up and down game for Stützle. Again, he's got 4 points in 3 games. He hasn't been that bad, but along with the power play getting going, I want to see him be that guy, be the superstar. And again, with Josh Norris here, that guy behind him is going to be nipping at his heels. Not to say they're stealing each other's jobs, but like he's got competition now. He's not the number one dog on his own anymore when Norris is at the top of his game. You see here, we got the new comments will display here. So throw something in the comments. Let us know who you're going to be watching tonight. It'll pop up here live on the stream just as we wrap up here. I mean, this has been a good pregame show. I think we're getting in the groove of doing these a little bit more. They're fun. That's back-to-back Wednesdays for us. It's been a week. Season's over or started, sorry, for a week. We're 3 games in. The narrative could be completely different next week, Brennan. So I don't even know when we're going to do another pregame one next. I know next Tuesday is the Frozen Frenzy. I don't know if that's going to be available in Canada. We'll find a way to watch it somehow. Looks like it's great. Anthony getting us going there with a Go Sens Go. I love seeing that. Do you have any final thoughts here before we leave the people to watch the Ottawa Senators play Game 4 this season?
No, I just think this is a great opportunity for the Sens again. We said it against Tampa. It was kind of a nice chance for them to put that first loss in the rear view and kind of forget about it. They did just that. Tonight's a great chance to win their third game, which then puts them, 2 wins ahead of 500, which is exactly what you want. You want to build separation, right? You want to see them build the wins, and of course, it's like you want to see them win and then not lose. But I love seeing the record just be a little bit separated, have a bit of a cushion, is the way I like to put it. Like New Jersey last year, New Jersey ended up going on a 13-game winning streak. Now that's crazy, and I don't expect that. But if you can even win like the majority of these games at home, like you can then afford like a loss or two here and there, right? Like the Sens in this last year, especially, they didn't put themselves in a situation where they could afford a loss, and then they lost games to Chicago and Calgary and Vancouver that they shouldn't have lost, and that was it for them, right? If you build a bit of a cushion, win games you're supposed to win. Like tonight, I think the Sens should win this game. Build that cushion up. They've got a very favorable schedule to start the year. Before the Sweden trip and even after the Sweden trip, right up until December 1st, there's 15 games. And I talked about this in yesterday's article. They're very favorable games. Like I think 8 of those teams of the 15 are non-playoff teams from last year, and it's
And they're at home. They're at
mostly
home.
at home too. So it's like they really should be able to win the majority of this and leave. I think entering December they should have a cushion where they can afford maybe a loss or two that they shouldn't lose, because that's going to happen. They're going to lose games they shouldn't lose. But if you put yourself in a spot where you're losing to Chicago and that's screwing your whole season up, like that can't happen again this year. You have to be able to put yourself in that comfortable spot as the top teams do. So I think that winning games you should win is important early in the season, so that later in the season you can kind of afford to lose games that you shouldn't lose. So yeah, Pamo with the $10, we really appreciate that.
It, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man,
it.
this is getting really awesome. It really helps us run this stuff. So go Sens go. That's all he needs to say, right? He doesn't need to say anything else. That's it. Just go Sens go. That's the message for the night. 3-1 record is on the table for Ottawa here.
Let's get some Go Sens Go in the chat, and Go Pamo Go as well there for setting the tone again with the super chats. Again, the super chats go a long way. You know what else goes a long way? Supporting us at manscaped.com. Sends 20 free shipping, 20% off any product. Can be a nose trimmer, a ball trimmer, a t-shirt, underwear, Go kit, anything you want. 20% off free shipping. So that's going to be it for the Everyday Sens podcast, another live stream edition. We are well and cooking here into the season. That's 4 games. It'll be 4 games after tonight. The Sens are 2-1. Either going to be 3-1, 2-2, or 2-1-1. Thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate it. We will see you all next time, and go Sens go.